Okay, guys. So this particular uh, published video or posted video on YouTube, it introduces or reintroduces the concept of our continental currency for the African Union. And yes, I'm gonna author the Constitution of Africa, the Constitution of the African Union, over the next decade or so. And I'm gonna send it over to the Mandela quote unquote camp, and they will be able to revise it and make it, match their peculiar, have it match their peculiar perspective. And and yes, here I also introduced the commercial codes of the Americas. We're going to have this established as one of the fundamental tenets and documents of the EAA, and then the Union of the Americas in 25 years. The EAA is going to be formed in 2 to 3 years. The Union of the Americas is going to be formed while I'm is going to be established while I'm world president of the United Nations World Government in 2049. I'll be elected world president in 2044. The Union of the Americas will be incepted, established in 2049 per negotiations all throughout the world via the United Nations and INTERPOL, and in using the CIA as the apex communication and tactical agency, intelligence and security agency on the planet. And yes, I did write The Wealth of Nations as Thomas Jefferson, and I sent it over to an operative called Adam Smith in Scotland, actually in Great Britain, but Scotland specifically. And and yeah, and I was honestly, I was honestly born in Scotland as Thomas Jefferson. I came over, I took a boat ride with my family members at 13, 14 years old. I took a boat ride to New York and then Virginia. And that's the honest to God truth. I covered it up with my alias as Alexander Hamilton. I wore a wig and wore makeup as Alexander Hamilton. TI versus TIP, even though I don't support gangster music per se. Naturally, I don't support gangster music at all. Uh, he did cover up that particular hidden fact. The CIA agents, they work pretty proficiently. TI did not have to know that. At times, I contested myself uh, as Thomas Jefferson versus Alexander Hamilton, and so on. All right, so that was covered up. We are going to abolish gangster hip hop, and we're going to allow hip hop to be the top musical genre, the most popular musical genre globally. But it's going to be fun and intelligent. Well, it's going to be more so fun and political. It's going to be fun and political. Hip hop. I did transform jazz as the boy, from fun and illiterate to fun and genius. I created geniuses, former slaves of mine, as Thomas Jefferson. I did buy them out of slavery, and they were my indentured servants. I taught them skills and crafts, and they reincarnated as Miles Davis, John Coltrane, and yes, Jay-Z was one of my slaves. Kid Cudi, one of my slaves. I had to call them slaves. I really did. I would have been in a lot of trouble if they found out what I was doing with them. But anyway, but yeah, and my name was Sundiata Niger Kiata. That's where the word not nigger came from. All the folks in the colonies, they found that out. They said, yeah, he was a nigger. That was his name back in West Africa a few lifetimes ago. He was a nigger. Okay, so that's what they call me. All right. As Thomas Jefferson, they said he was Jesus Christ was a nigger, and we are pretty sure he was a sand nigger as Jesus Christ in Nazareth. We are pretty sure that he was born in Egypt. That's how racist folks were back then. So I asked to free the slaves as Thomas Jefferson, and then folks were trying to burn down my house and this and this and that. My security said, we're going to have to hurt a lot of people, but just to keep you and your family safe, we're just going to have to wait 100 years or so, and you will return to the United States as Abraham Lincoln, and finally free all of the slaves, as Abraham Lincoln. So that was the negotiated agreement with the conservative factions, the Tories. That's what you guys know them as. All right, so well, I guess we know them today as the Tories, but essentially back then also. All right, so that's the reality. All right, guys, what I wrote as Thomas Jefferson about Africans being highly intelligent in music and and dancing and memorizations and stuff. That was a cover for what I saw into the future of my then indentured servants, my then protectees. All right, I saw hip hop into the future. It was a kill zone. It was to kill uh, white supremacy for good. We saw hundreds of years into the future back then as Thomas Jefferson. So I had to keep them safe. I said, well, whites are intellectually more inspired. I just had to say that. Trust me, they were trying to kill me, my slaves, and my family members. Folks were very vicious back then. They never care who I am whenever given the opportunity. That's why I'm usually discreet and hidden when I'm here on the planet. And I lied about only being here on the planet as Jesus Christ in Nazareth. And 2,000 or 3,000 years later, kingdom come. So I had to hide that. Okay. So they say God is not supposed to be on the planet. Human beings always get nervous and they always get in trouble for not being perfect enough. And I have to respect that. All right. So I'm not arrogant. I just had to explain that. Okay. All right, guys. So please visit the www.shawndexterjohn.wordpress.com website, blog site, professional blog site. Also, you should be able to find all of my publications, my work papers, and work reports and documentation, uh, supplemental documentation at scribd.com. And I do have everything else posted on LinkedIn for the most part, and Twitter for the most part, and Facebook for the most part, and Instagram for the most part, just so that everyone knows that I work hard. I'm the hardest working person in the universe, and that's just really the situation at all times. And everything is documented and stored at Interpol and CIA offices undisclosed all throughout the country, Canada, the Caribbean, Europe, and Africa, and very soon Australia. So no one is going to be able to steal my work. I sacrificed a lot as Du Bois in handing over work to so many different operatives. I did, yeah, I really did. But I'm not going to have to sacrifice this particular life other than writing all the constitutions and for the continental unions and handed it over, for the most part, and writing the Constitution of the United Nations World Government or the Constitution of the world, colloquially, uh, and not acknowledging it popularly to the rest of the world. So that's going to be my sacrifice. All right, guys. So I did write all the constitutions of the member states of the United Nations. Each and every one of the constitutions, I wrote all of it as Du Bois, and yeah, I honestly did. So and proceeding that and and moving forward. That's my job. I did write the New Deal. I gave it over to FDR. I did write Special and General Relativity. I did write it in heaven, and I sent it over to Albert Einstein. I was very, very humble. I'm telling you, I'm not as egotistical as you guys think I am. Very, very humble, and I work very hard, and I do the right things by intent at all times. I might appear to make mistakes here and there, and when I do appear to make mistakes, if I do need to, I humble myself, but I'm not going to submit to any hate or any sort of restriction on my, on anyone's part. So, I mean, imposed on me. So, yeah. So, just take a look at the work. Uh, we're going to have a continental currency for the African Union. It's going to be called the Afrik or the Afri or such. And and I do introduce the commercial codes of the Americas. The CCA is going to be fundamental to the EAA, which is going to be formed and or established over the next 2 to 3 years. The free trade and economic area of the Americas, and it's also going to be a fundamental tenet, a fundamental document and statute of the future Union of the Americas, which will be established in 2049, right upon my second term as the first world president of the United Nations World Government. I will be elected once again in 2044, and the Union of the Americas will be created in 2049, and the EAA will be quite strong and formidable by then, the Organization of American States, and within the General Assembly will be quite productive and representative of a complete competency and excellence. So everyone will be ready for the Union of the Americas, and everyone will certainly be ready for the open borders by then. We're going to bring wealth throughout the Americas via the EAA. So we're just not going to have this sort of caravan sort of situation that we do have right now. And all the folks being brought to America via the caravans are being guided by the Central Intelligence Agency. They know exactly where they are going to go. They have documents, everything proven to officers that they were sent over by the Central Intelligence Agency, and that's how a lot of folks got in trouble in ICE and Homeland Security and border and so forth. Homes are already available for them when they get here. We have everything arranged. We've created new towns and neighborhoods all throughout the United States of America, especially in Middle America. So African Americans are going to be steadfastly middle class and upper middle class over the next 30 years. We're going to remove all African Americans out of poverty or out of low income situations. That's part of our project. Restitution, reparation, as it was demanded by the United Nations. And we're going to move forward, okay, guys? So, yeah, I'm not an asshole at all. I'm not a bad person. No, I don't even curse at all, but every once in a while I do have to say curse words so that folks know. I do know how to communicate on a regular basis with ordinary folks. Not ordinary folks, everyday folks, you know. Ordinary people, everyday people. All right, guys. And yes, John Legend is my son in heaven, one of my sons in heaven. And so is Will Smith and Jaden Smith. They're my sons in heaven. I have 5,000 sons, biological sons in heaven. I have 5,000 biological daughters in heaven. But I only have one biological daughter right here on earth, regarding from my genetics as Shawn Dexter John, 5'8", born of the Commonwealth of Dominica, a United States citizen. I only do have one biological child at this point, and I'm ready to move forward with my program and everything else. Okay, guys, hold on. So when I moved to New York as Thomas Jefferson, it was called New Amsterdam back then. I did create New York City per se. I created the five boroughs. I designed everything. So it was New Amsterdam back then. That's not a lie. And it was not really a Dutch colony at all. It was a former Dutch colony, Dutch outpost, and we just said it was a Dutch colony for diplomatic reasons, but it was always British. And we provide white lies in history, but nothing crazy. Okay, so all right. So hold on. Same person. I am the same person.
Try to keep you. Try to keep you.
I did write the Constitution of the United States in its totality, and I did write all of the amendments of the United States, uh, especially as Abraham Lincoln regarding the amendments. And as Thomas Jefferson, after I wrote the Constitution of the United States and I wrote the Federalist Papers and so forth, I did hand it over to James Madison. That was Barack Hussein Obama Jr., one of my 12 disciples, who who had to revise it. He did not do much at all. He tried Americanizing a term here or there with the help of Benjamin Franklin and so on. But FDR was Benjamin Franklin. Yeah, I'm a very humble person. I'm a very humble person. So yeah, Sean Combs, or the purported Sean Combs, also known as P Diddy, Puff Daddy or Diddy. He actually was one of my slaves. I was Thomas Jefferson, as I explained earlier. He was one of my slaves. I bought. Actually, he was one of my indentured servants. They were indentured servants with me. I bought them out of slavery, gave them skills and crafts, or crafts and skills, and they did make money in the local markets on Saturdays and sometimes on Wednesdays and so forth. They did play music. They did have different functions and so forth. So they learned to be active within the community and so forth, separate from the general slave population. And we did work in making the lives of slaves a whole lot better, incognito, without folks being able to decipher our program, our intelligence program from heaven. But yeah, I kept my trust fund and estate account separate from all ventures of Puff Daddy or Sean Combs. And so all of my $10 million, United States dollars, are preserved to me. They are backed and supported and protected and secured by Interpol and Scotiabank via subsidiaries unknown to the federal government for the most part, just to the CIA, special agents of the Central Intelligence Agency and Interpol. That money, that account itself, is going to be transferred to an American account, American bank account, financial and bank account, exclusively controlled and used only by me. I'll be able to access it, but I'm going to be paid $1,500 a month by the federal government to be able to manage the federal government, the United States government, and its partnerships and subordinates. Uh, so, uh, so I'm not going to have to use too much of it. It's going to remain at $10 million for the most part for a while. It's going to appreciate in value. I'm going to be on the planet for 500 years consistently to make sure that Earth and its constellation actually gets into the realm of heaven in 500 years. And everyone is going to reincarnate and resurrect at that point. All natives of Earth and its constellation. So that's the good news. The secret good news: everyone gets into heaven. Everyone pays up their moral debt by living multiple lives, several lives, countless lives actually, to pay up their moral debt to be able to get into heaven with the rest of everyone else. Okay? So the story of hell and eternal condemnation is a deterrence against sin and crime. That's what it is. It's a necessary white lie, but people do go through hell in their particular lives, and sometimes it feels as if they are in flames. So it's not really a lie, but it's sort of a white lie. All right. So just like in physics and in the science books, we lie about the historical dates or the age of the universe and this and this and that. We have white lies in the Bible, but the narrative and the message itself is factual. It's true. So I'm not a bad person at all. I've been humble over the past 15 years. So if you see the house my mother is likely going to move into, or a similar house in South Florida, uh, we are humble people. The Virgin Mary, she's quite humble. And my dad, he's still in Canada. I'm going to have to move him to South Florida. And I'm going to move him to South Florida. And he's going to live in a West Indian African American neighborhood for the most part, right outside of Miami. And he's gonna be in a 3-4 bedroom, what we call a brick house or a wall house, a regular South Florida house. He's gonna humble himself. Tesson, my sister, she covered up. I didn't name her Tesson in heaven. I scheduled her being named Tesson to cover up for me being Khaled Hassan in the then future. So that's my sister, Tesson, my baby sister, but she's my daughter in heaven. She's one of my daughters in heaven. I did give her the assignment to play my sister, Tessa's daughter, my earthly father's daughter. So, and I'm pretty sure she's gonna eventually end up with Arion Knighton, the Bahamian American. I think it's Bahamian American and Jamaican American sprinter. He's eventually going to break the world record in the 200 meters. He's going to break Usain Bolt's record, and yeah. So that's the situation. Okay. I made the decision. I sacrificed to be able to get Tesson out of a very tough situation and to keep my family as safe as possible. All right, we are not going to offend the traditional African American community. Tess and Tesson, for the most part, they perceive themselves as traditional African American, uh, and I do too on a consistent basis. But it's my job to feel like an alien at all times. So whenever I'm on the planet, I'm usually born in a foreign country, or I just walk into Earth, and I always hide it. But it keeps me sharp in commending all good fates of the whole planet and the constellation of the rest of the universe. It's not offensive at all. I'm not being offensive at all. Okay.